It would take Russia at least a year or even longer to build a new factory for producing Shahed drones. Aviation expert and senior researcher at the State Aviation Museum, Valerii Romanenko, said on Espreso, "It is well known that Shaheds are produced at only 2 plants. The facility at Yelabuga in the Alabuga zone and the Kupol plant in Izhevsk. That's it, just 2 enterprises. The Yelabuga plant is the more powerful one, producing far more drones than Izhevsk. It took more than a year to build, and they had practically all the necessary documentation from Iran to construct a new plant near Bryansk or beyond the Urals. Russia would again need at least a year, possibly longer, especially now that they face restrictions on access to machinery and equipment. Only the defense sector is functioning. Civil aviation is dead, and even machine building is struggling," he noted. According to Romanenko, restarting Shahed production at another facility would require reprofiling the plant, which would also take no less than a year. So if strikes are carried out against these 2 plants, Yelabuga and Izhevsk, the Shahed problem and the issue of air defense against them would be solved at once, because there would simply be nothing to shoot down. Even though production is primitive, reducing Shahed output through strikes on the workshops could allow us to redeploy mobile air defense groups closer to frontline cities, which are hit not only by Shaheds but by many types of drones, even the cheapest ones, the aviation expert added. Recall Ukrainian firm Wild Hornets said its Sting interceptor reached up to 195 miles per hour in stable flight, a speed that likely makes the system one of the fastest first-person view combat drones. A speed counter on the drone's first-person view user interface indicates that the Sting reached up to 350 kilometers per hour, or roughly the top velocity of a standard bullet train. The announcement comes as the Ukrainian drone industry has been trying for months to push the limits of its FPV interceptors. Ukrainian units are increasingly looking to these low-cost drones, once a novel concept on the battlefield, as a solution against the Iranian-designed Shahed. Russia, which manufactures the Shahed locally, has drastically increased the number of these exploding drones it deploys at a time, pairing them with ballistic missiles to overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses. An interceptor drone's speed is key because the uncrewed system must be fast enough to catch up to the Shahed. The Shahed 136, the standard loitering munition used in Russia's drone waves, flies at about 115 miles per hour. The Wild Hornets have said that one interceptor costs $2,500 and that Ukrainian pilots have already used the Sting to destroy roughly 100 Shahed drones.
Ukrainian fighters destroyed a boat belonging to the Russian Black Sea Fleet that was trying to deliver soldiers from the airborne troops to the Tendrov Island in the Black Sea in the Kherson region. Drones belonging to the Ukrainian naval forces launched a series of strikes on the boat approaching the island. As a result, 7 paratroopers were killed and 4 were wounded. Other Russian soldiers on the island were also targeted by the drones. As a result, there were deaths and injuries among them. Ukrainian drones also targeted a boat with occupying soldiers on one of the islands located on the Dnieper River in the Kherson region. As a result of the strike by a kamikaze drone, the boat exploded, and the Russian soldiers on it were killed.
Ukrainian forces still control the village of Novi Put in the Kursk region. At the same time, fighting in the Sumy region also continues. Z channels write about the advancement of the Russian armed forces in the Yunakovka area. Analysts from the Institute for the Study of War have announced the situation in the Sumy and Kursk regions. Recently, the Russian armed forces conducted combat operations in the area of Kondratovka, Andreevka, Alexeyevka, and Yunakovka. Ukrainian forces counterattacked in the area of Andreevka and Yunakovka. A Russian military correspondent associated with the northern group of the Russian armed forces stated that the commanders of the 2nd Motorized Rifle Regiment and the 5th Battalion of the 234th Airborne Regiment are having a hard time getting their troops to attack Novi Put. It is known that attacks on this village have been going on since August the 25th. Z channels are confident that the Russian command in the Kursk region presented their superiors with false reports about the cleansing of Novi Put. At the same time, Ukrainian forces continue to actively block Tetkino and block all landlines of communication with the help of drones. The head of the Sumy OVA, Oleg Grigorov, stated on August the 31st and September the 1st that 2 civilians traveling along the roads of the Sumy region were injured as a result of Russian drone strikes. Order of battle. Units of the 83rd Airborne Brigade of the Russian Airborne Forces continue to operate in the area of the southern part of Yunakovka. Drone operators of the Smuglyanka detachment coordinate the VKS strikes on Ukrainian troops in the Andreevka area. Drone operators of the Anvar Special Forces detachment strike Ukrainian troops in Senkovka, Gorsk, Klyusi, and Arkipovka in the Chernihiv region, as well as in the area of Novovasilevka, Barilovka, Mogritz, and Velika Rybitsa in the Sumy region. Earlier, media reported that the Kremlin is urgently transferring elite troops from the Kherson and Sumy regions to Donbass. Russian media announced the transfer of units of the 177th Marine Regiment, as well as the 155th and 40th Marine Brigades of the Russian Armed Forces from Sumy region to an unspecified direction to Donbass. An OSINT analyst reported that the Russian command had redeployed units of the 40th and 155th Marine Brigades and, likely, units of the 177th Marine Regiment to Donetsk Oblast. According to him, there are reports that units of the 11th Separate Airborne Brigade and the 76th Airborne Division were spotted nearby in Donetsk Oblast after the Russian military command urgently redeployed these units to the hottest direction. The OSINT source noted that the exact direction of attack of the redeployed airborne units is still unclear. Russian command has also reportedly redeployed units of the 70th Motorized Rifle Regiment from the Kherson region to Bakhmut, possibly to reinforce Russian offensive efforts in Kostiantynivka or Seversk.